Blog Talk Radio.
Mysteries abound around the world, from strange lights in the night sky to ghostly apparitions passing from one realm to the next. From the great pyramids of Egypt to what lies beneath the depths of Loch Ness. From Bigfoot to Atlantis, they are all mysteries waiting to be solved. Join Laurie Phillips, Lauren Smith, Graz, and Billy Simmons as they search for the truth on Nite Callers Radio.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nite Callers Radio. It's October 12th. Also, Adam's birthday today. Happy birthday, Adam. We welcome everyone. We're going to have a great show tonight. Of course, it's been riddled with obstacles already tonight, but I think it's going to turn out very well. Lauren is en route from
northeastern Oklahoma.
Yeah. Yeah, she's en route back to her house from southwest Oklahoma. They went there this weekend, and Billy is a little under the weather tonight. And Billy, you have to abandon us. I certainly understand. And of course, we have Graz here tonight, too. So we're all here. It's going to be a good night. Let's think
all
positively.
hail Graz, the guy that doesn't ever have any daggum problems on this show.
Me, I'm fine.
What's your secret, man?
I tell you what, I have some corn on the cob that had a bunch of slap your mama on it. My lips are just blistered.
Can you tell the rest of the non-Texans listening what the heck slap your mama is?
Slap your mama is a Cajun spice that it's got pepper. It's got several different kinds of peppers. It's real spicy, and it's called slap your mama. Slap yo mama. Slap yo mama.
Wow.
Yeah, and I used it on everything. It gives everything just a little bit of heat. Well, I had some on corn on the cob, and there's usually I don't notice it so much, but when you eat corn on the cob, you put your lips on that corn, and my lips are pretty hot right now. So,
I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Right? I am holding back so much right now.
Why not slap your mama? Let's slap your face.
She waited until we were on air to tell us. She didn't want to tell us.
Baby, you just
she knew we'd ring
bed.
I was trying to tell you guys. Well, it's calming down now, so thank goodness, because it's like, wow, that was some hot stuff. Woo.
I'm pretty sure Billy's jealous of you just because you actually got to eat food.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah, what does that taste like? It's been so long. I just can't remember.
Well, down here in East Texas where I am, it's not uncommon for us to eat very, very hot food. With so much We have a lot of
Doing the
Mexican
radio
influence and Cajun influence, so yeah, the food is all real spicy down here. So
I don't have that problem up here in the Northwest.
yeah,
I bet you don't.
But it's about as spicy we got up here is paste. Get the rope.
Is what?
Get a rope.
Get a rope.
Paste pecan.
Paste
Oh,
pecan
get a rope.
sauce.
Hey.
That's not true. I sent you some real Texas pecani sauce at Christmas.
Clems or Clements or whatever, that's all Ricky will do. That's all he'll eat. I swear, I smell that stuff, and I'm just like, oh, my God. Clint.
And I sent him a jar of Hell on the Red. They make it down the road. Here.
Hell on the Ranch?
Red.
No,
R-E-D.
you can hold off until he visits you, Billy. All right.
R-E-D.
And then I can't eat that stuff, man.
All right now. Y'all picking on me already. You're lucky I showed up tonight. Go easy.
I do owe you. I owe you a couple T-shirts, I think, for all the Got Your Tom Petty and your Dove Leopard.
Yeah. I was in the emergency room all night last night, nursing a bad gallbladder, and I still made it into the show. So
you're such a trooper.
We're so proud of you.
I don't know about that, but
super trooper.
But I'm here. We're going to have a good show.
Just walking up.
Yeah.
Well, y'all ready to get this show started right now?
Yes, I am, but I just want to say one thing. I am proud of the Dallas Cowboys. They whooped the Seattle Seahawks today. And I'm so proud of them. They tore them up. Yeah. And that wasn't supposed to happen. No comment.
Let's do it. No, it wasn't.
Okay.
I didn't hear any screams in the apartment complex, so I knew you were going bad.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to go ahead and bring on our guest. I know everyone's anxious to hear from him. Since Lauren is on the road, I'm going to go ahead and read unless Grass wants to. Grass, do you want to read the guest intro?
No, you're doing fine.
Okay. Well, continuing the series of the North American Sasquatch Researcher, Nite Callers presents Michael Kain, Sasquatch Researcher from the state of Ohio. Michael Kain is 44 years old and lives in central Ohio. Throughout Michael's childhood, he experienced paranormal activity, which spurred his first passion to be a paranormal investigator. Because Michael is open-minded, it was not a stretch for him to believe that Sasquatch could also exist. He felt a kinship with those who had sightings, especially when there was very little evidence to support the witnesses' encounters.
Yes, I'm doing a damn show. You see me running the chat?
Okay, guys. When an episode of Finding Bigfoot aired on the state of Ohio, it ignited his interest in the subject, and he decided to go out and look for himself, where he found much possible evidence in the field. Being an avid off-trail hiker, he began hiking to areas where few people ever go and obtained audio, found footprints, and limb structures. Do I have this right? I'm thinking I messed up somewhere. But anyway, Michael has a Facebook community called the House of Enoch. And so we're going to be bringing Michael on. Hello, Michael. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Did I get your biography right on here?
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty close. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it sounds very similar to the one we had the week before. I think I may have goofed up a little bit. Very highly possible. Michael also goes as Woodland Spirit, and he has the Facebook community called House of Enoch. So if anyone wants to go there, follow it, like it, share it, or join it, you're sure welcome to. And so, Michael, we are glad to have you on tonight. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful.
Okay. Michael has a great video out as well, and I had posted it over on the Nite Callers Facebook page. So if anyone would like to go over and see it, it's beautifully done. It shows his research, and it's set to some very calming woodland type music. So anyway, if anyone would like to go there, you can go to Nite Callers Facebook page and see it. My mouth is still on fire.
Try vinegar.
I think I'm going to have to try something. It's just awful distracting. It's just terribly distracting.
I like hot food too, so. If it gets too hot, I always put a little bit of vinegar on there, and that usually neutralizes the heat.
Well, that's a good idea. Maybe it will calm down. It just kind of comes and goes, and oh goodness. Okay, well, Michael, I'm going to start out with. Do you go by Michael, or would you prefer to be called Mike?
Michael. No, Michael is fine. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Michael. When you were young, you experienced paranormal activity, and this is not uncommon. In fact, it seems like this is something that happens quite frequently with a lot of Sasquatch researchers. They'll start their childhood either seeing ghosts or experiencing a haunted house or having experiences like that. Can you kind of go into some of the things that happened to you as a child that spurred your passion to be a paranormal investigator to begin with?
My earliest memory is probably around, I think I was probably 14 years old, and I was at a friend's house, and it was in the summer, and we had been motorcycle riding out in the woods, and we came back to his house, and we got into his house, and we got something to drink, and we turned on the TV, and the whole time you could hear, it sounded like a child running upstairs, like jumping off the bed, and this part of his house was a remodel, so the floors creaked. You could hear someone running like for 45 minutes. We sat there and we didn't even think anything about it because his sister also lived there that had a young child. And it wasn't until we went upstairs. Of course, my friend, he was leading the way, and he just stopped in his tracks, and he just turned around and looked at me with a dumbfounded look, and he looked in that room, and there was absolutely no one in there, and that that was a pretty good one there, because it went on for like 45 minutes. And then,
well, how old were you approximately?
I was thinking I was probably about 14.
Okay.
When that happened. When I was 16, I had lost my sister, and I had
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. I had an experience that changed my life, and from that point on, always knew there was something there. I mean, there's just, some people wonder, some people guess. It's like a fact for me. And from that point on till my adulthood, I've, to this day, still experience paranormal activity, even here in my house. So it's not like you said, it's not a stretch for me when someone sees something that they have no proof of. I know that feeling. I get the weird look when someone, and then to have so many. I mean, I could probably write a book on all the weird things. I mean, that's happened that I would consider paranormal.
Right.
And
but you're in no way saying that Sasquatch is paranormal.
No. I think I think it's a living, breathing creature.
Okay, we just wanted to clarify that.
Sure. Yeah, and that's my kinship with my friend and fellow research partner. We together for a long time, and we had a really long drive to work I am open. I'm like an open book. I talk to anybody that wants to talk about stuff like that. And he ended up, through the course of many conversations to and from work, sharing with me that he had actually seen something several years before that he has no idea what it is. He thinks he might have saw a Sasquatch. To this day, he's still trying to find out what he saw that day. And that's kind of where our kinship started, and we, decided to, go out and find out for ourselves. And
how did you start doing that? I mean, where did you even know to go, or how did you begin? What kind of research did you do to locate areas and that kind of thing before you even started? We have a lot of newbies out there that probably want to know how you began.
You mentioned I had always thought that the Bigfoot was a California thing. I remember seeing the old In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy, and I just never related it that something like that would be in Ohio. And and I've always followed, anything Bigfoot, Sasquatch. But it was actually when Finding Bigfoot aired, and it was in Salt Fork, Ohio. That was actually when we actually drove by that state park all the time for work, and I'm like, well, that's, right there. It's about 2 hours from my house. And we started talking, and just from, I would say I was probably a closet researcher for years. I sat there and I was on all the sites. I saw everybody's input, but I didn't really, I just kind of listened, and formulated my own opinion, my own plan of attack of how I would go out and do something. So we ended up going to Salt Fork.
That's a very promising area from what I understand. I mean, don't they have a conference there every year? And
in Ohio it's like the Bigfoot Mecca. I think it's 17,000 acres. I could be wrong, but it's huge. It's a huge state forest. And but we immediately just had a few things that we were going to do different, and that was we were just going to go and try to get as remote as we could possibly can. Every time we go out, we're young enough, able enough, pretty good hikers. So that's kind of been our plan from day one, was we were going to get off the hiking trails and we were going to go up to the next ridge over and then the next ridge over. And that's kind of how we started. And our very first day, the very first time ever out, we went to Salt Fork. It had snowed that day, the night before, and we went out and we did exactly that. There's kind of the side of the park where all the hiking trails are, and where a lot of sightings have been recorded. We were on the complete opposite end of the park, the most remote part of the park, where there were no hiking trails, and we just kind of pulled our car over, looked up the ridge, and we started hiking. And it was several hours just hiking. We came across a trackway, and it was 2 sets of barefoot prints. It was one was 13 inches and one was 6 inches. And to this day, these are the best prints I've ever seen in my life. We find a lot of prints, but these were the best. And we took some pictures. We documented it. We went about our day, and on the way home, it just kept gnawing at me. And I started thinking. I talked to my friend Eric, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I was like, we had Carhartts on. This was winter, and I could see maybe someone, an adult maybe, walking out in the woods barefoot. But a kid, a 6-inch, what parent would let their kid do that and get frostbit? And due to how remote of an area we were in at the time, there is no hiking trails. There's no. We had went through briars. We had went through. This is just not an area you're going to go barefoot in.
Exactly.
And
did you follow the tracks?
What happened? It was in an area where it was really soft mud, and it went maybe 20 feet. Both prints we could see, and then it got to an area where the snow cover had actually covered up where it went from there.
Uh-huh.
So it was they must have passed through right before the snow, because they're really the tracks were fresh, and it snowed just maybe by the time we got up in the morning. So during the night it snowed. So they were maybe 8 hours old. Just as a guess. So we couldn't really find where they led at the time. And
did you feel at the time that they may have been in the area? Did you sense that you weren't alone out there, or did you feel like they had long gone?
Not at that time. The first time we went through there, we really didn't get a sense of anything in that area. Now, we were in other areas during the park that day that seemed a little eerier. But we returned.
All of this was during the day. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
We do night investigations, but a lot of the stuff we do is during the day, because we're looking for evidence. More than a sighting, we want evidence. We want to see, it's like, common sense tells you if they're in the woods, they're going to leave evidence. And the way my mind works is, if they exist in the woods, we're not seeing it, then they're obviously where we're not. And that's kind of the whole precedent of getting off trail, getting further than what, if you think most state parks, 90%, maybe even 99% of the people walk the hiking trails. You walk through, and you have no idea what's over on the next ridge. Have no idea how much farther it goes back. And that's what we do. We go see, a lot of times we'll hike a hiking trail to get in deep, and then we'll look for game trails. And then from the game trails, we'll go. And usually we'll stay on the game trails and until something happens. We'll hear a tree knock or something. And one thing that we do is, I know we've been out hiking for over 7 hours before we've had anything. We cover a lot of ground, and we're just stubborn. If we don't get anything, we just keep walking. We keep walking. That's what we do. And we try to go in areas that no one in their right mind would go, or if it's too steep, or if it's a really sketchy, dangerous area, we'll go there. We'll go through briars. And that's where we find our evidence. 90% of the time, we find our evidence in areas where you don't want to be in.
Right.
But we returned to that same place several times in Salt Fork, and we have found footprints. We have heard grunts. I actually have a grunt recorded. We have a recording of a grunt. We have found structures, tree breaks. I actually, in that area, I think we have gone there enough that we know where they are during the day, and we think we know their habits, their routes, and it's ingenious. Over in Salt Fork, it's called Bigfoot Ridge. It's the campground, basically. There's a lot of sightings there. And at night, that is a great place to be. People have, found a lot of stuff there. So have we. But during the day, I don't think they're anywhere near there. I think they are over at the remote end of this park, and I think I think they're on private property. Because we've gone up to that line, and we've had a lot of stuff happen, and we're not ones, we won't go onto someone's property.
Right, it's not a good idea.
Right. So we'll walk the fence line, stay on the side of the state park. But we've heard monkey chatter. We've heard low frequency thuds. We've heard tree knocks. We've heard. It sounds like monkey chatter. It's the craziest thing we've ever heard. We've been followed out.
That's pretty common.
Yes, and that's happened to us more than once. And my fellow researcher, we have an 8-second scream recorded when we were back there. He hasn't posted it yet, but we were hoping. At first, we didn't think we got it, but we did. He actually has video on. So, just an 8-second scream is pretty long. When you're watching the recorder, that's a long scream. And the last time we camped there.
Great capture. I wish that, go ahead, Bill. I wish that we had gotten with you so we could have uploaded it to the show and shared it with everyone. That would have been wonderful.
Yeah. Well, we'll get it posted out there.
Okay. Well,
we're
we have
always
a question
battling.
from Lori 103. She wants to know, where in Ohio are you located? You can just give a county if you don't want to tell any more than that.
Well, I live in central Ohio, about just east. Everybody says Columbus. I don't live in Columbus, but I live just east of Columbus, kind of located central in the state. So for me to go anywhere from border to border, it's about 2 hours. I'm 2 hours from anywhere in Ohio.
Okay.
And Salt Fork is on the eastern side of the state. It's kind of northeast, and that whole side of the state is a very wooded. It goes into Pennsylvania, all the way down through there. It's a very wooded part of the state, and down south, in Wayne National, the southern part of Ohio is really a great area to look to. And we go to Salt Fork.
No, go ahead. I can ask you a question when you're through. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. We bounce back and forth. We'll go to Salt Fork, and then we go to Wayne National, which is a huge forest. It's a national forest. It covers about 4 counties. So it's massive. And that's our other area that we go to, that we've had done a lot of research in, and actually what we think we've had an encounter there as well.
Which place would you say would be more active, Salt Fork or Wayne National?
It depends. Salt Fork for Ohio is a great place to go. You have to contend with more researchers there.
Exactly. I was going to ask you about that. In fact, that was my next question.
That was my first
thought. Do you feel that is it, because we've heard all about Salt Fork, so many people going to Salt Fork. Do you ever feel that it's over-researched and that possibly that's the reason why they're on neighboring privately owned properties, because it's just too much research traffic going through the park.
I would have to agree with that. I think it does get over-researched. I do know that, from our time there, that we spend there, they don't go where we go. Everybody kind of goes over to where the sightings are, and everybody kind of migrates to one side of that park when there is a massive other section of that park that we never see anybody. When we go, like I said, we don't use hiking trails. So where we're going, it's just not a place where people, you can get lost. There's we have to use our compass. We have to put a lot of thought into when we go out and how many hours we go out. And there's never been anyone in the parks that we research. But over on the other side, if you were to spend the night, you kind of have to stay in one area, and that's the bad part about it, because we've heard screams, we've heard things, but you don't know if it's a guy in the next holler. At night, we dismiss a lot of stuff because of that.
You don't know if it's other researchers trying to do calls or anything like that.
Yeah, and we've had researchers go through doing calls, at night, and we've had to just kind of dismiss some of the stuff that we hear at night just because you don't know. I'm not going to claim anything unless we know. We did have, and another thing we do is we don't use tents, because usually the way we hike in, it was just too much gear to carry in, so we use hammocks. So the last time we were there, we were actually in hammocks out in the forest, and I think it had to have been pushing 3 in the morning. We were having something snarl at us, and it was just low. It sounded mad, and the first time it did it, I sat straight up in my hammock, and I have a really powerful high beam on my headband. I shined it right in that area. I couldn't see anything. Heard a tree knock. I get my audio on. Now, of course, this is 3 in the morning, so all of our batteries are getting low, and I kept it on for like 20 minutes. Finally turned it off. Tried to lay back down. It did it again. And it's after the 4th time it did it, I got up, and I was up for the night. I didn't get a wink of sleep that night. I tried the next morning to go in the area that I heard this coming from, and it was almost impassable. This area was so overgrown, I couldn't hardly get 5-10 feet in it, and that's what we do. And it was a thick area. But I would say it was within 100 feet of us. And now I don't know what it was.
Yes.
Ohio, as far as Ohio goes, there are bear in Ohio. That's rare. It's usually southern Ohio has some bear. I've never heard anybody. There could be bear at Salt Fork. I'm not sure. That could have been the only other thing it was, but it did not sound like a bear. It sounded like a snarl. And we've never, and all, as much as we've been out, we've never seen bear tracks there either. And what we'll do, we'll record, and then we'll try to go back and research what we heard, and try to, we heard a barred owl one night. And if you've never heard a barred owl at night, they can make some insane sounds.
Especially when they scream. They'll fly up and just let out this scream that will just stop your heart, and you never even knew they were there.
Yeah,
and
I've
experienced that. didn't. The very first time I heard it, of course, I thought it was surely must be a Bigfoot, So
we did the same thing.
I researched it, found out that it was a barred owl scream, and I knew they did the Who Cooks for You and that they can sound like chimpanzees when they're bantering back and forth, but I had no idea they could scream like that. And that wow, it was just
and that we
loud.
researched and we finally figured that out. That's what it was, because we were dead set that had to have been a Sasquatch until we got back and we did our research, and behold, we were terrified by a barred owl.
Well, I'm going to tell you, it is not uncommon for researchers to believe that they've heard something that they think is a Sasquatch. They would almost lay their whole paycheck down on it that it is, and then come to find out. I had an experience where, and I did not know what it was, and I was sure in my mind, I was sure it had to be Sasquatch, but then but I never came out and said it's Sasquatch, because you know better than to do that. And then someone heard it and they said, "Oh, that's blue heron," and the bird, like the lake bird, and they make this like that, And I mean, when you're hearing that out in the woods, and you're thinking, "Oh God, what is that?"
I'm thinking that just hearing you doing it.
Yeah, you have to be careful. Yeah, you have to be real careful and kind of fact check. We want to try to keep a high integrity. We don't, like on our site, we never say this is a Sasquatch. We always present the question and say, what do you think? Here's what we found. If we find I've got several prints that we've posted. We never claim it to be a Sasquatch. We just claim that here's the print, here's the size, here's where we were, and until we have that definitive proof that we actually see one of these things, that we can say definitely, okay, yes, we saw that. Now, we did have an encounter in Wayne National that actually spawned 2 months of research. Every weekend we went there. We try to go out every weekend. It doesn't always pan out, but I think over the last 6 months, maybe 3 weekends we haven't gone out. So we're out there a lot. And that's another part of the reason why we choose different places. We don't want to over-research our areas either, for the same fact that, eventually they'll move on. And that's kind of what happened in Wayne National. I checked it out on Google Earth, and we went and we hiked to an area that I thought would, maybe have some good potential. And it took us about 7 hours to get there. And we got up there, and it was nothing. It was, pretty disheartening. We had hiked all day. So,
When you say there was nothing, what do you mean there was nothing? It was not what you expected it to be, or there was nothing there? It was a dead area? What do you mean?
It was heavily would have been. Okay, and I just kind of lift off that range, and I was clear across on the other side.
Okay, am I losing Michael, or is anyone else hearing him fade out?
Michael, are you on Bluetooth? We're losing your signal.
Yes.
You're losing my signal. Let me try to move around here. Okay.
Oh, now you're back with us. Do you mind repeating what you just said, because we did not get it? You kind of faded out.
Okay. Yes, we had hiked clear up to this ridge, and we got up there, and there was no evidence of anything. So I looked at my research partner, and I looked over clear on the other side of the state park. I saw this huge ridge, and I said, let's go there. And this was after 7 hours of hiking. Basically, we crossed all the way back across the other side, climbed this ridge, and we got about 3/4 of the way up this ridge, and something started hitting a tree, and it was deafening how hard this thing was hit. It sounded like a baseball bat. We could hear it splintering. We could hear this wood splintering. It was hitting the tree so hard. It stopped us in our tracks. I actually looked at my friend. I said, "Are you kidding me?" And we started to...
and this is Eric Tipton, right? Your research partner? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And it was up in elevation, so it wasn't like we could just run up there, and it was so thick you couldn't actually really see in there. We couldn't see what was making the noise, but it was loud, and it was pretty terrifying at the moment. We went to the right. We waited a few minutes, and we could hear rock clacking on the other ridge, and it was
interesting.
Yeah, and it was smelling smaller.
I want to ask you about the rock clacking. Was there a rhythm to the rock clacking, or was it just clack, 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 or was it like 3 clacks and then a pause, or was there any kind of rhythm? Because we've been hearing a lot about rock clacking. Seems to be
rock clacking that we heard, if I could explain it, I would say it sounded distressed. It was real fast. Okay. It was a lot lighter, like it was like something was under stress. You could hear it tick, 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 tick,
Okay.
So we started heading towards that, and there was a huge down tree. It goes, probably 60 feet up at an angle. I decided I would climb that tree because I wanted to look over and see what was bashing the tree. So I climb up this thing, and as I'm climbing up there, something slaps a tree right behind Eric. I mean, within 15 feet from him. He spins around. Then...
And you're miles and miles away from a vehicle that you could evacuate in.
There's absolutely no way if something bad was to happen, we were goners. I mean, there's just we were so far in there that really even the ridge itself is a ridge that you can't just run down either. I mean, you have to be careful. It's a pretty steep ridge. So then we started getting rocks thrown at us.
Great.
Yeah.
What else do you need? Oh, my goodness.
And and then it just, Eric thought he saw something. We looked, he thought he saw movement. Now, we never did, he said it's so far away, but he thought he saw movement back there. What I really think happened is I think we came up this ridge and we came in between a mother and her youngling.
Okay.
And I think the mother hit the tree to stop us, to distract us, and I think the rock clacking we were hearing was a distress call, like a locator. And I think there was more than one, because it really, at one point, we felt like we were surrounded. We were getting stuff from behind us. We were getting stuff in front of us. We were getting rocks thrown at us. And then it all just went silent.
What was your state of mind at this point, you and Eric both? I mean, were you scared or were you nervous? What were you thinking?
Cautious.
Do you want to call a helicopter to come get you out of there?
No, we were very cautious because, to be honest, we were bewildered. We were like, what just happened? You really didn't have time to process it all. So we just kind of, things just got quiet. And I told Eric, I said, I'm going up on that ridge. I said, I don't care. I need to see and make sure that there's not a hiker or there's not someone. I said, I just got to rule it out. And we went up there and we hiked probably a mile in radius around this ridge, and it's just more and more woodland. And so we knew that we were up there alone. There's no doubt, whatever happened, we weren't alone, but there's no humans up there. And we started returning there every week, and we went to that same spot. And every weekend we had, it always start, we'd hit a certain point on that ridge, we'd hear a tree knock. Every time. You'd hear the knock. And then we ended up casting a print. I think it's the one that you have on your webpage. That was from there. We found a print. I got on video a different time, rocks got thrown at us, and I was videoing, and I was maybe 30 yards from Eric, who was down below me. A rock, on his video, you can hear the rock almost, you can hear it land beside him. On mine, you can see the rock. You can see it coming from, from this far ridge. And I've been trying to post it, and I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but the quality, it's so minute when you see that rock. But when I put it on when I get it to my computer and I post it, it loses just enough quality to where you can't see the rock. And I'm trying to work through that because it's such a great piece of evidence that. Well,
what about YouTube? Have you tried YouTube? Possibly, maybe it might upload a better quality than Facebook.
I'm definitely still researching it and trying to get that on there because it's evident. You can see it plain as day. Well, we went back and I figured out where I thought they would probably be. We kind of went back and got the video and found the trajectory of this rock, and it was actually a lot farther back, like where we were looking several times. It was actually a lot further up the ridge than where our eyes were trained, trying to spot something. And it's thick. I mean, I've posted pictures of Eric 30 feet from me, and you can't even see him. It's not like you can look through the forest and see. It's really thick. And but we went to that spot, and lo and behold, we found a footprint, a barefoot footprint right there in the spot that rock was thrown. And then down the ridge is where we ended up casting a footprint from there. So
no, go ahead, Michael.
We kept returning to the ridge, and each weekend the activity got less and less, and until the last time it just seems like they've moved out of that area. So that's where we pretty much stopped that area for now. It happened in the summer, so we'll go back next summer. We probably won't go back there until then.
Well, this seems to be a good. Do you mind if we go ahead and stop and go to intermission? And wanted to let anyone out there that would like to call in and ask Michael a question or speak to Michael. You may call in at 347-989-0313. That's 347-989-0313. And, Michael, you're doing a fantastic job, and we're going to pick up right where you left off when we get back from intermission, okay?
That's wonderful.
Okay.
All right.
We'll be back in a moment, everybody.
Okay.
All right. Okay. We are back, and we are on Nite Callers Radio, Bigfoot Radio tonight, and our guest is Michael Kain. He's from Ohio. And, Michael, are you back with us?
I am here.
Okay. Well, that was a pretty long intermission, so I had them cut it short because we wanted to get back to you. You were talking about that you had gone to this area, and after a time, the activity just started to slow down. And so, are you going to a different area now?
Yeah, we're researching some new areas. Right now, we are possible of 3 different locations. We're doing what we normally do. We go out and we'll just hike, and if we find something that seems promising, we'll go back. It's actually funny. The last couple of weekends we've been going to this area, and I hated it at first. It just seemed like it's a big forest, but there's a lot of roads, and it seems like you just can't get, remote. We get bummed. We get bummed. We like to go where there's no people, and but we.
And that's the best way. I have to agree with you there.
Yeah.
That's what I like to do, because then you can rule out that it's people that you're hearing.
Right.
You know, everything you hear, you want to be able to identify it, and
and we got some interesting stuff though. So it piqued my interest. We actually spent all day today. We went back and I took some pictures last week, and that I thought were nothing. But now looking at them, there's something behind this tree, and at the time I saw it was across the river in an area with a lot of shrub, and I just saw a black spot. So I just took a picture of it. We actually hiked all the way back to the car, and while I was sitting in the car, I was kind of going through my pictures. I blew it up. I'm like, man, that looks like a face. So we talked about it, and we hiked all the way back, took a couple more pictures, and it was gone. That spot that I saw in those bushes was gone.
Wow, I've had that happen to me.
Yeah.
Really?
So we ended up going back today, and we actually waded across the river to get to this area, because it's there. Actually, this one, there is a hiking trail, but that we were on, and it follows a river. And this was on the other side where there's no hiking trails, and the backdrop of it is probably 1,200 feet in elevation. That is steep. I mean, we climbed it today, and it was. I got myself in some pretty sketchy places there. But we went there. We tried to debunk everything that we saw, in the film. Tried to figure out the tree, and we searched the area, and we got some. I think we found some prints in the moss, and on the tree there's some down trees. And this area had a lot of moss, so there's like 4 different places where there's these huge impressions. And so we documented that. We just did all that today. So I'm going to go through and take a look at what we got, and so that we're still holding promise at this research location. And then, of course, there's another area.
Before you start on that, Michael, we have a phone call. Do you mind taking a phone call right now? Okay.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
740. Do you have a question for our guest, or are you just listening in? Okay.
No, I do.
Welcome to Nite Callers.
Laurie, this is Laurie.
Hi, Laurie. How are you doing?
Hi. Okay. I wanted to ask Michael a question.
Okay.
Now, I'm the one who's from Ohio. I'm 2 hours from Salt Fork. And I don't do any squatching. No, thank you. I like to hear the stories, but I'm not doing that. But the reason I asked is I had watched a documentary at one point, and they were some Squatchers, and they were saying that out of all of the rangers in all the national parks in the United States, that the Ohio Rangers at Salt Fork were pretty forthcoming about Bigfoot, like, oh, yeah, and I didn't know if you found that to be true or...
I haven't talked to any of the rangers at Salt Fork. I've actually only seen them once. And again, we kind of go to, we kind of do our own thing. So we're in some areas where there's not even any people there. But I will bring up something that I thought was really odd last weekend.
Okay.
We were, you know where Mohican is? Mohican
Yes,
State Park?
I sure do, in Loudonville.
Yes, we were there, and we were driving, and we had hit one area there, and then we were going to a different side of the park, and as we were driving, I looked over at my research partner, and there's a guy standing there, and just the way he was standing, he looked so suspicious. He had camo on, he had an orange, a yellow vest. He was drinking a coffee, and he just saw us, and he kind of turned around, and he just looked odd. I said, man, he looks suspicious, and I just kept my eye on him as I was going around the corner in my rearview mirror. As soon as he thought that we were out of sight, he turned around real fast and was covering something on the trail, but like with his feet, like trying to cover something up. And I thought, because you hear those stories like, are they covering this up? Are they? And I never really gave it much thought until I saw that. And I thought, well, that's weird. That to me, it just looked. He looked like he was he just looked guilty or something, And I don't know. I mean, we drove by there again today, and of course we couldn't find anything. But it looked like he was like covering. He was kicking dirt and stomping it, like trying to cover something up right on a game trail. So I don't know, but I noted it. I was like that. That was kind of strange.
Yeah, there's a big river right near Mohican.
Yes.
Because they have canoeing and all that kind of stuff down there.
Yep. It's a good sized park. It's there's a lot of roads that go through it. I'm not crazy about that, but there's room. I mean, there's definitely room for something to be there. That's actually where we were today, and that's where we found some pretty good size impressions. And what I try to do is when I go out, I need like 3 of something. I need either hear a wood knock, find a print, see a structure, a tree break. If I find 3 things, then I get excited. If I just find a print or just, tree breaks are really hard to kind of detect whether it's snow load or. Now we have found stuff that there is absolutely no way. I mean, we were on an area that these trees were manipulated, and when you work an area, that area. We know the areas that we go to. We know if anyone's been up there, and after a while, you notice things that change.
Right.
And Wayne National Park, we would hike there on the trail, and we had we made our own mark. Okay, we made our own little tree break to know when to go off trail, and that's kind of how we would find this place because it's so far back. We used our own little markers. We just make little tree breaks here, and we use that same trail every time in because it was so hard to find to get to this actual spot. We had been there 3 or 4 times, and on the side of the trail, there was a little like a teepee structure. It was, it wasn't there the weekend before. It was not big, but it was just something there that wasn't there before. And we found things like that. And I don't know if that was a marker like, hey, this is a human trail or we found one in Salt Fork where there was a 2-track, like an old coal road or something, and we were on a game trail that was about 30 feet off of that, and through shrubs, and we were following this game trail, and we kept finding berries, little berries along the game trail where there were no berries. We started looking, and we're like, that's odd. And we ended up finding some small impressions. I think it was like a 6-inch footprint we found. And then what was funny was when that game trail finally got up close to where this old logging road was, there was an X. Like, I looked at him like, is that a stop sign? Or, are some of these markers that we're seeing telling them, hey, okay, there's possibly human activity here, or a lot of times when we find a tree break, we'll see them in line of sight of each other, like every 100 yards. We'll see, and we try to look for a tree break that has a twist. That's we've learned actually through listening to other researchers. They pretty much dismiss anything unless it has a twist to it, and so we look for stuff like that too. We find some X markers, stuff that I remember when people would be talking about these things. I was like, until you see it for yourself, and you get to look, and like when we go out, we really debunk that. I won't take a picture of anything that I think could possibly be natural. I mean, it's going to either be a human did it or something else. It's a lot of these. We'll look at trees. We'll look at all the trees up around it. We try to look at every scenario when we find stuff like that. Like, is there any branches broke up above this? Could it have fallen? And we just look for all the natural things first. And 9 times out of 10, if it looks natural, we're not going to document that.
Right.
We look for the tree breaks. We look for the little. We find a lot of little structures here in Ohio. They're about 3 foot tall, and they're just kind of leaned up together. I have no idea what that is. It's not obviously big enough to sleep in, or. But I thought there was a clue there when we found that one beside our trail, the only trail that we were using. There was one there, so I don't know if they were letting us know, or it was just I thought it was worthy to note that hey, wow, and that whole time up on that ridge, we had never seen any other kind of activity, of human activity up there. We never saw a single person. I mean, we're the actual hiking trail that people use there was a couple miles. So if you think traveling ridge over ridge, a couple miles, I mean that's pretty far back, and it was too deep in for hunters. That's another thing we kind of. Knowing that, hunter's got to drag, if he's going to shoot a deer, he's going to have to drag it out, unless there's a 2-track or something, even the hunters aren't going to be in that deep, because it's just too far in, for most people. So we look for clues, in threes usually before we really get excited about an area. Just one. We hear a lot of knocks. I think if you hike far enough, if you get off a hiking trail and you just hike far enough and you keep going, you're going to hear a knock. If there's something in that area, you're going. At some point in that day, you're going to hear a knock. And
well, in Loudonville, they have that huge powwow twice a year. And there's like, I'd say within an hour of Loudonville, there is a lot of, especially in Columbus, there's a lot of Native American groups up there.
Mm-hmm.
And they come into Loudonville. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that has something to do with it, maybe once in a while, or also with a Mohican Park. My sister had lived in Mansfield, and we were trying to find a soccer field of my nephew's, and we took a wrong turn, and boy, those roads are really remote.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of remote. So we were kind of like, I think we went the wrong way. But yeah, I was just curious about, that if you had seen anything like that, or have you ever been around like Coshocton or the Pocasing River?
Yes, the Muskingum watershed is another really remote area. It's kind of an area. Salt Fork gets all the attention, but that area through there, I'm telling you what, we researched there a lot, and I have yet to see a car back in this area. I mean, it is you are.
But now you just gave it away. You're going to be seeing cars out there.
That's okay, because I don't think they would. That's a big area. It really is, and I don't think. Yeah.
Okay, everybody from Salt Fork, move down there.
There's some of the researchers here. They know about it. I don't get too concerned with that because I don't really know of a lot of people that do what we do as far as hike as far in as we go. So I don't worry too much, but it does, like I said, you like to share information, but you like to share information with people that you trust, and you hope that they're not going to bring a huge group out to your spot, and ruin it.
Exactly. Oh God, yes.
And it's not. It hampers things, because it does hold up progress. But I think there's to me, after we hit that area in Wayne National, we hit it every weekend for two months. After a while, it started dying down. There was a touch of humanity. We thought, let's leave these things alone for a while. Winter's coming. Let's give them a break. Let's hit some other areas. And just give them a break. Every weekend, having to come deal with us. It just felt to us like it was time. It's time to give them a break and go check out some new areas.
I truly believe that you can over-research an area. And they're still there, I think, but they just have decided they're not going to make any kind of noise, or they'll just leave the area, maybe leave one to watch you, and just leave the area. And when it gets tiresome for them,
Yeah, I agree. I think they react, and I think,
yes.
If you come to the same area every single weekend, the natural reactions are going to move a little further back or get away so they don't have to mess with you. I'm not, I don't know how I feel about migration or anything like that. I don't personally. I think they stay within the areas, but I think they move around a lot. Because you can go to an area, have something one weekend, go to the same exact spot and not get anything. And
right.
Another thing I think too, I can't say that I have actually seen one, but I have seen something really, really strange. And it happened about a month ago at Salt Fork. We were up on a ridge, and as we came down off this ridge, we heard a really loud wood knock to our left. And I just happened to turn and look to my right, and I saw these two things running. I'm at the peak of the ridge, and I'm looking down, and there's water. And in this area, you can kind of see through the tree lines. And there's two, and I saw like the top 4 feet of whatever it was. But it looked like, to me, from my vantage point, it looked like 2 Christmas trees. And that kind of shape, it's a really coned, really wide. But what got me was the speed and the locomotion really kind of got to me, because I've seen deer run. And these things honestly looked like they were floating. Just the way, like even if you jog, you bounce. When a deer runs its gait, they bounce. These things were straight, went straight through the tree line, and the only thing I could even try to compare it to is the speed of a car. I mean, these things were over 30 miles an hour. I mean, it was the fastest I've ever seen it, and that was something living, because it was the ridge was really steep, so it took me a couple minutes to get to a different vantage point to where I could kind of see, and I could hear it crashing through the forest. I couldn't see it anymore, but I could hear it. I mean, branches breaking, and it just disappeared, but and then it just stopped. Like I actually kind of in my mind kind of trained my eyes to where it stopped at, but it was a good amount away, and it was kind of in an area that I wasn't sure if I could get over to that area. And then I just sat down, I started watching, and Eric, he was on the other side of the ridge. He ended up calling me because he was having something going on his side of the ridge. And so I actually went to go meet him. But it was, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say that I saw a Bigfoot. I'm just going to report what I saw.
I can honestly say, in doing this for 14 years, I've heard that said several times, that they move almost at a sort of supernatural speed and agility. They have a fluid movement that just almost seems unreal. And
it
very,
like
very fast.
Floating. It really did. It was so strange. It wasn't that it didn't make me nervous, but it made me. It really got to me, because I said, like those things floating. And
okay, you are falling out on us again, Michael.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes. It made you. How did it make you feel now?
It didn't make sense, I guess is the best way to put it. I saw it, and it was the span between the two trees was 15 feet or so. So I got a pretty good glance at it, and the first one went through, and the one right behind it, and it was just it was two really dark shapes.
Could you tell if they were on all fours or whether it was bipedal? Could you tell that much about them, or where you went?
From the height that they were at, it had to be something running, because it wasn't that close to the ground. It was, it was because the one thing that helped me see was the water was the backdrop. So in between, as I'm looking down this big hill in between these two trees, the backdrop behind that was water. So I got a really good look. But there were some shrubs, but it did not look like something on all fours. It looked like something was running bipedal, and it just looked
interesting.
Straight, no head movement, no bounce, just straight. I mean, whizzed by these trees. So I don't know if when we crested that hill, if that knock was to divert our attention to look over there, why something else was getting away. I think they do that. I think.
Yes, I agree.
A lot of times when you're looking at, you hear a knock or see something, they're directing your attention that way for a reason. So something else behind you is probably making, moving away from you.
Exactly. And that is something else that is very common. I mean, you hear a noise on your right and you're hearing movement on your right, they're more likely to be on your left. And I don't think it's very uncommon for them to be like, say, they're on your right, and to be throwing sticks and rocks and anything they can over your head onto the other side to make noises so that you think they're on your left when they're actually on your right.
Yeah, I think they manipulate you.
Yes, they do. And can you imagine being in their shoes? I would certainly do that if I was.
I've heard that before with other reports. There's a distraction element to it.
Yeah. I think it's really, usually what I'm learning out in the field is when you get into an area where you think they might be, they always have the ultimate advantage. Either, like when we would go up on that ridge, we're pretty avid hikers and we're out of breath. A human cannot just run up a ridge. And I've always noticed, and I've noticed this several times now, it's never on the top of the ridge. It's never down on the bottom. It's about 3/4 of the way up is where we'll find stuff. With good cover and multiple escape routes. And I think when you're, like us, we'll get up to a spot. Even that time we heard this tree bashing, there was no way I was going to run up to that top of that ridge because I had to find a way to get to it. So it was not like something I could just run and go look and see what it was. They always have an advantage over you. And I think they always stay. We talk about all the time out in the field. How do they go by hearing? Do they just hear you? Or do they wait till they see you? I'm sure their vision's awesome. When we get a tree knock, we'll go, and the last time we got one, I went to where we heard it from, and it's like when I got to that vantage point, it was like, how could it even have seen us? I mean, it probably heard us, but there's no way, I don't think it even could have seen us because the way the contour of the ridge kind of hit our view. And from the area that we heard that knock, it just, we were just like, maybe they hear you, and they just, whatever they do, they have the ultimate advantage over you, whether it's through speed. And I think that's sometimes where people get the paranormal thing, what attached to them, is because they're doing, and we run into that. We run into where, just minutes before, we've heard knocks. We've had rocks thrown at us. And we go there. I mean, we go to the areas every time, and it's nothing. We'll go back, and, we have found a footprint here and there. But when this happens, it's always like they're just far enough away where they're not going to be seen unless they want to be seen. Go ahead.
I have a question for you. Do you ever use any of these techniques? Baiting, doing calls, or do you play music?
The one thing
kind of elicit a response.
The only thing that we really do is occasionally we'll do a tree knock. We don't. Sometimes we'll do a hoop call, but I've really, to this point now, I think when we go in, I'm kind of under the impression now when we hear that first tree knock that we've already been had. They know that we're humans. They know we're there.
They know you're there anyway. So anything you try to do is basically you're a human doing that kind of stupid shit. So.
Right. So we're kind of under that impression that we've never. Now I have thought about, and I probably will try some Native American drum beats or something like that. that's something I've thought about doing. As far as actually I'll do some rock clacks too. I try to do natural things just to get a response. Every once in a while we will get a knockback. When we do a tree knock, we'll just, we usually don't do it. And part of it too, I don't think they're talking to us. I think they're talking to each other. I really kind of feel like that they're signaling, or they have someone signaling.
They're communicating between each other, basically, in a way that they hope will be overlooked by the average person.
Yeah. And I don't know if you ever saw the video I had of that huge structure we found.
Yes.
It's about 7 feet tall inside it. This thing is huge. That whole location, everything about that structure that is awesome. That is back in Salt Fork where we have the activity. But if you go down, there's a huge, it's kind of a watershed, and we've actually hiked all through that and found half-eaten fish. We were actually following a set of really large impressions across this. This grass was maybe 5 feet tall. In the middle of this, it's probably 100 acres of field there inside the park. We found fish right in the middle of it, like 5 real large impressions, clear away from the water. But that was at a time when the bass were spawning, and you could hear them. I could have walked right out and grabbed the bass with my hand, taking it. But in that field, there is only one road. It's a dead-end road that leads back to that area to get to that field. So you'd have to park your car, and then you'd have to walk, several, I don't know how many acres it is, but to get to the middle, it would take you a good 20 minutes probably of walking through there. Well, where we found the structure was high up on this ridge, and it had a really good vantage point of that road. And it didn't look like something that anything was sleeping in. It looked like, to me, a lookout. And I thought, man, any car that goes by there at night, something could be there, could one tree knock, and those things could be gone before that person even got out there, got to park their car.
Right.
It seemed like a very strategic place to have something. And I think they do. I think they do that. I think they feed. And then I think they go over to the campsite, and I think they check the people out, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on there. I just don't think they're there during the day. If you hike that area, there's just not a lot of resources there. There's a lot of resources where we go, but I think the reason they have so many sightings on that side of the park is really because the campers. And I think they probably come at night to check out the campers.
I do have one more question, and we're getting down to the wire, and I know that Grass, do you have any questions before I ask him my last question for the night?
Well, I was curious because you were uploading things into Facebook. You were thinking about going over to YouTube. For newbies and things like that, what do you carry in with you as far as cameras or any kind of recording equipment?
We have, Eric has a pretty nice HD camera. He has a GoPro. I have a parabolic ear. I have an extra audio that records. So we try to take in, and we also have night vision. The thing about night vision is it only goes so far. Even at night, we were kind of surprised once we actually got. It's great for around the campsite and stuff, but you're not going to see far into the woods. And I don't even know in some of the areas, even if infrared would be helpful. I think at night it's hard to get stuff that you can bring into the field that's going to help. I think a really good infrared camera would be awesome, but they're outrageous as far as the expense. And we've looked into it, and we're like, yeah, I can't.
We all need a sponsor, don't we?
Yeah.
But infrared is only good in certain times of year. Also, if it's too hot outside, it just floods the camera. Because if they're at pretty close to ours, 98 point whatever, and 100 something whatever, and the trees and the area itself is in the 90s, you won't be able to see them for the trees.
Yeah.
And we actually had that experience with Billy and some others with a thermal camera when it was just too hot outside.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The best time is fall and winter.
Yes, I can see that. Well, the biggest tool that we use is our audio and our video. A real good, nice camcorder, and our audio. And it's a trial and error. Everything that we bring with us now is because we forgot it another time. A tape measure, a compass, casting
You didn't
material.
charge your batteries, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, extra, and we're always fighting that because we go in remote areas, so we only have a limited supply of batteries. So we try to really, I carry an extra battery pack for that, and we carry extra batteries. But there's certain things that, we really try to not, especially if we're overnight, we really try to manage our battery power because it's always an issue, And there's only so much you can carry, When we go in, we're packing maybe 50 pounds. You got water, you got your food, and then you got your gear. The parabolic mic's a really nice tool to use. You can really hear stuff from a long way. I would recommend something like that to anybody as well. And a notepad, just the simple things too, and a tape measure. Just so you can have something to scale. And we do a lot of tracking. That's probably one of the biggest things we do. And you can't, you can't really look for Sasquatch and look for tracks at the same time. You got to do either one or the other. So usually, if we're looking for footprints, we're going real slow, and we're not really paying attention to a lot of what's going on around us unless we hear something. But that's where you find the details. That's where you start finding, tracks. And they're tracks. There are tracks here in Ohio. It's littered with footprints. I mean, we're every time we go out, I won't say every time, but if we hike long enough during the day, we're going to find something. It just, these things can't move around without leaving signs, and that's why we're so big on the daytime. In Ohio, it's pretty safe. There's certain areas where you couldn't do what we do. You couldn't just go through the bush blind, in grizzly country. We can do that here.
Right.
Michael, I have one final question, and then we're going to have to call it a show. You've done an excellent job. May I say that? You've been an excellent guest, and you're an excellent researcher. I would be proud to research with you anytime. My final question is, even though you haven't had a full-on sighting, with many people, they believe sort of that Sasquatch exists, but it takes seeing one to really believe. Where are you at on that scale of believing in that they exist? Do you absolutely believe they exist?
I went into the field mildly skeptical. I was open to the idea, but I was still kind of skeptical that they could actually be here in Ohio. After our encounter, I would say I'm at least 90%. I mean, we're finding too many footprints. We find, we've had those encounters. We've had rocks thrown at us, and I know it's not hikers. I know without a shadow of a doubt that's not a person out there messing with us. And so I believe the evidence and the clues are pointing that, yes, there is absolutely something out in the woods of Ohio.
Now, do you think there's something like a Neanderthal or something else, some kind of branch?
I'm real open to the idea that there could be different types. I really, really think that could be a possibility. I think they got to be extremely intelligent, at least probably almost on our level. I mean, we're intelligent with technology, but we're dumb out in the woods. I mean, that's
our disadvantage. We lost all that.
Yes, So I think they're highly intelligent. I think when we're out looking for them, we're in their world, and we're at their mercy. If they wanted to do something, you're not going to get away. I know, we know that. We're in areas where we can't run back to the car. We can't even run.
Oh my goodness.
I'm
very impressed by that. The fact that you do get away from your car, and get out there where they are. That's very impressive.
Now, you're into hunting. Do you pack at all at any time?
No, we have. I've had a couple of things at night where I wish I have. We do carry. We have bear spray, and I have those really ear-piercing loud horns, and that's pretty much what we carry. And one thing I do when I'm walking, I like to walk and show my hands. I like to, if I'm being watched, I want them to see that I don't have, I'm not carrying a gun. I'm trying to, during the day, I feel really comfortable going out.
You don't want to be a threatening presence in their home, basically.
At night, I would not be against packing after a couple of the encounters we've had. Because I certainly, being that far out, there's a couple of times that, when something's growling at you and you're up all night, that extra safety would have come in handy. But to this point, we don't. We go in and, we do have some things to protect, deterrence, and that's it. We figure, we're in their area, and if we get too close, they will let us know.
Well, Michael, you have been an excellent, excellent guest. Everyone, if you're interested in following Michael, he also goes as Woodland Spirit on Facebook. He has a Facebook community called House of Enoch. And if you want to follow him and follow his webpage, his Facebook page, and follow what he's doing, he's been posting some of his research on his in that forum. So feel free to go over and join if you want to. And Michael, thank you so much for being our guest.
Thanks for having me. It was great talking to you, and I'll keep sending you guys stuff, and I'll be following you guys as well.
And we'd like to have you back if you would like to come back sometime.
That would be great. Sure.
Okay, well, everyone, it's been a great show. Next week we have Lonnie Gallegos from Colorado, and that looks to be another good show on Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio. So, Bill, would you please run that outro? And we'll
run that beautiful outro footage. Night, guys.
Night, everybody.